We talk about wanting to work on ourselves, but what does working on ourselves look like? What is the curriculum behind working on ourselves? And I think that's an interesting question, because I think that in order to really understand what it means to work on ourselves, we have to think about the order of operations of how we begin to do it. And I think that sometimes it can be overwhelming, right? Well, where do I begin? What do I start? Do I start with boundaries? Do I start with core wounds? Do I start with my belief system? Do I start with working on the issues with my partner? What do I do? Okay, and that's a great question. And so in today's video, we're going to talk about what it means to work on yourself, kind of the order of operations, and what you can do if you're ready to do that. Hey friends. Today we're going to be talking about working on yourself, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I find that a lot of people ask me, what does it mean to work on myself? How do I do it? How do I engage in this? I've been thinking it from the position of myself and my partner, but I really think that I need to really dig deep and figure out what it is that I need to do for me. Okay, and I love that because it's so important, because once we get to that part in our life, we're doing good. We're doing good because we're actually realizing that we do have some work we have to do. Everybody has to do it. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And we're on the road, right? We're on the road. It's great. It's awesome. I mean, it's like getting the ladder out, and we're already a couple steps up the ladder. We're doing good. So where do we begin when we start working on ourselves? And I think there's kind of like a core curriculum. Okay, I think there's a core curriculum of what we have to go through. And this is not all in order, but it's the curriculum of what we have to do to achieve that working on ourselves. And I think the first thing is that in any situation, we're dealing with the fact that we're probably in a relationship that we're having some challenges, right? And so it's understanding what those challenges are, understanding the dynamic, right? Because we have to deal with that dynamic, understanding how it impacts us, how it triggers us, those types of things, right? And that can take a little bit of time. And that's good because it's real life. It's not in a vacuum. It's real life situations, how we're really dealing with it, how it makes us really feel, what really happened last night. Like being able to engage in that and understand why is that affecting me? Why is that upsetting me? Why do I feel triggered? Those types of things. Very powerful stuff because it helps us to understand at our core a lot of the things that we're dealing with. Okay? And then I find that once we get past that to a certain degree, we can kind of put that on the shelf, which all of this is really wonderful because it really does help us to understand who we are, what we're doing. Also, we get some illumination into what's happening with our partner, but then we're able to begin to work on us. And I find that first off, we look at what are those belief systems that we have. Okay, we have to figure out the core belief system. We got to figure out how to get there. Okay. And that can be a struggle for some of us because we haven't really listened to ourselves, right? We haven't really thought about that. We've listened to everybody else. We've gotten to know everybody else. We know what they love. We know what they hate. We know how they feel. But we really don't know about us because we were never taught that we should go in and find out more about us. And some of you may have been taught that growing up, but many of us weren't because our parents didn't know that. Okay? They knew that they were supposed to meet and get to know somebody in a relationship, and that was supposed to be a big deal, but they didn't realize that they were supposed to have a relationship with themselves. Many of us were also in relationships with the family dynamic where maybe our emotions and our feelings didn't matter that much, okay? So we never really worked to process them because they didn't matter to other people. Why should they matter to us, okay? And so really connecting with that when we're working on ourselves is very important. That's what I call, that self-care. Yes, okay, self-care, getting your hair done, taking your shower, all that stuff is self-care, but actually being able to accept the fact that you have emotions and feelings and being able to process that and see that and allowing it to be, that's real self-care. Okay, so we got to deal with the core beliefs. We got to find that. We got to listen intently to get there. Once we find those core beliefs, then we're able to find the location and what the core wounds really are, right? And those core wounds are what really causes a lot of the tragic situations and painful situations that happen in our life with relationships, right? And so knowing that, all of a sudden we have the aha moment, right? Oh my God, now I get it. Okay, I've had this fear of abandonment, or I've had this fear of rejection, or I've had the fear of being alone, or the fear of, whatever, fear of being left, or whatever it is. We begin to see it. Okay, then we also begin to understand why certain relationships we were in. Why we pick certain types of people. It's that aha moment, an aha moment again, that it just helps us to really get to understand. Then we can process any childhood trauma that we've had, okay? based on some of these core wounds, which is very powerful. And that can gain a lot of knowledge, wisdom, and also we begin to, I think, love on ourselves in a different way, because we were beginning to find this information, we're beginning to work on this information, we're beginning to love ourselves in a way that we need to love ourselves that we never have. And as we're working through this, we begin to understand ourselves, and we have this massive personal understanding that begins to grow. Okay, and that's what's so powerful, is that we begin to see ourselves as another person that deserves to have love, deserves to be understood, deserves to be able to provide their thoughts and feelings and have their own emotions. Okay, the next thing that I find is interesting is understanding our values, what we stand for, who we are, right? And that's powerful. And this is what I walk, every one of my clients through. And then through those values, we work on our boundaries, right? And I think that's amazingly powerful, because we know who we are and we don't let ourselves be walked over, right? We don't compromise ourselves in unhealthy situations. And we begin to do that over a period of time where we begin to grow and learn more and feel better about ourselves as the time goes by. And it's powerful stuff, very powerful. And then through that process, we begin to understand our programming, right? And this is powerful, because once we begin to see this other stuff, we begin to see how we've been programmed to act a certain way throughout our life, right? So if this happens, then I'm going to do this. This is just the way I've always done things, right? And we begin to see that programming in Technicolor, because we realize that the programming is really not us. We are separate from the programming, and we begin to realize that. And it's a powerful place to be, because then that's when our eyes are really open, our heart is open, and we're understanding, okay, wow. Okay, now I understand why I felt this way. Now I understand why I've been this way. Now I understand why I've walked into these relationships multiple times. Now I realize why I walked out of relationship multiple times. We're able to understand why we do what we do. And that's when we're talking about working on ourselves. This is the crux of it, right? And then through understanding that programming, we begin to work on self-acceptance, self-worth, self-value. Then we begin to work on the self-love component, because you can't have it before. It doesn't work that way. You can't unconditionally love yourself when you have all this resentment and anger and maybe some hatred for yourself stuck in there. We can't compartmentalize. You can't have hate for yourself over here and be like, oh, I love myself. That doesn't work that way. So we have to work on that, okay? And then eventually, the greatest thing is we get to a point where we have these aha moments on a daily basis, because we're able to express ourselves, understand ourselves, be able to see why this happened, connect the dots, A to Z. Oh, I know why this happened. Now I know why I chose this. Now I know why I said that. Okay, now I understand that's part of the programming. And then that's when we get to the part where then it's time to bring back our partner into the situation and start working on our communication, right? And you're hoping at the same time that your partner's done some of their work too, because that's so helpful. Because if they're working and they're taking themselves seriously and understanding the value of cultivating that relationship with themselves and really excavating those core wounds and finding those core beliefs, then there can be communication, right? Because otherwise it's communication breakdown, because we're coming from two separate places with our fears and our anxieties and our belief system that's holding us back, right? That's when we're able to come together and work things out. And so I find this so powerful when we talk about working on ourselves. This is what that is. Is it a lot? Yeah. Is it worth it? Yes. The value of doing this is exponential to what we find. Because, when you think about it, I know that people think that purpose is like a career, right? Or purpose is doing this thing or finding the cure for AIDS or cancer. And those are great, admirable things. But the purpose really is about finding out who we are and understanding ourselves and finding that unconditional love for ourselves. Because until we find that, we can't unconditionally love anybody else. We can't really truly be there for somebody, right? Because we have hang-ups within ourselves that don't allow us to do that. So as good as we are to ourselves is the best we can be for anyone else. That's why we do the work. That's why we work on ourselves. And that's what I work with every one of my clients, is to work through each one of these pieces to get to the point where we solidly know each other. We're at peace with that. And each day we're growing, learning, evolving. So I hope that this video has connected with you, because I know that many of you are saying, you know what, it's time to do the work. I feel like I have to do the work. I need to know more about myself. Why did I make this choice? And I think that each time that we learn more about ourselves, we're just closer to our purpose, right? Because that's what we're trying to figure out, to understand the reasons why we do what we do, to find the love within ourselves, and to be able to cultivate that inside of ourselves, to be able to radiate that to other people. If you haven't already, you can join the channel, which is great. You know, you can join. There's a special content for that. But there's great content without joining, but there's special content for joining the channel, which is cool. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, because that's awesome, because it makes me feel good. It makes us feel good that you subscribed. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. And in the comment section below, let me know, hey, are you working on yourself? You know, what stage are you working on? You know, maybe even better, you know, what was the wake-up call that you got that said, hey, it's time for me to start learning about myself. It's time for me to start digging in and figuring out what makes me tick. I'm interested. I like reading all the comments. I'll definitely get around to them. So I look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget to live your true life.